Greetings, it's Heidi with Heidonian Living, and today's book Recviewmendation segment is on Dr. Henry Cloud's Changes That Heal. This makes the top echelon of that very few handful of books that I would say absolute must read, life changer. And for me, it really has been a life changer. This is the most recommended book on my shelf as far as something written by man. I'll tell you what, Dr. Henry Cloud, if you find this to be helpful, you will love many of his other books, as well as some of those that he's written with Dr. John Townsend. I just can't read enough of his work and much of Dr. Townsend's work, and they've done a lot of books together too that are really great. And so, Changes That Heal, really what this book taught me, the things that I have carried through that have changed my life are the concept of what really making peace with the fact that we have this ideal self, this expectation of who we're supposed to be. Then we have the reality of our really broken, messed up self. And then somewhere in between is who we really are. And so we're always comparing the worst of ourselves, this image of that's, skewed to far worse than we even are, or maybe sometimes not enough of who we are, compared to this perfect ideal who we think we should be. That's a key word. I learned that through this, as well as his and Townsend's book about boundaries, about how dirty of a word should is and how we should all over ourselves, basically. But the idea of making peace with that, living in the middle, that you can be good and bad at the same time, that you are parts of your ideal self and parts of your false self all in the same. And how much freedom from years and years of depression and anxiety that God used this book as part of my healing process, along with some great counseling and a whole lot of other great books. And so maybe you're not in a season where you feel like you have some real emotional or mental health issues. Maybe you're just in a season that you really want to grow. Well, this book, I feel like no matter how great your life is or how challenging your life is, that you will glean goodness from this. Another important concept that Cloud addresses in this book is what it really takes for growth. You can think a little bit about what you have in mind for growth, but the truth is, you need some important key components. And I hadn't really had it, I kind of had an idea in my mind of what growth took, but he really helped to solidify that, simplify that, and make it a concept that I could really then use as a something to hold my current growth season up against. Is this good growth? And so some of the components that he talks about is having truth. You need to have the truth. You also need to have grace. So that's accepting the parts of yourself that are bad, the parts of yourself that are good, and also giving yourself the grace to grow into more and more of that ideal self, and yet giving yourself the good time to know that you'll never reach that this side of heaven, and finding peace in that. And so that's the kind of Heidi-ized version of Changes That Heal by Dr. Cloud. And I could just, oh my gosh, this book is so deep for me and for most of the others that I have shared it with, that I recommend you don't read more than 1 or 2 pages at a time, maybe 3 or 4 at the most, because to really digest these concepts and apply them and reflect on them and meditate and be prayerful about what you're being taught from this is so important. The goal is not to get through it, to get it finished, but to grow in the process, to give yourself the good time that it takes to confront and accept the truth. And sometimes that can even be positive truth about yourself, that you have been so wrapped up in your false self that you couldn't even accept that part. And sometimes it's hard truth, but to have the grace to give yourself the time to work through those things. And so I've actually read this several times, once on my own, a couple of times as I go through the workbook that you can get as well with it. This I recommend getting with a safe friend, or maybe your local church has a group that takes people through Changes That Heal in a safe, positive, healthy environment. But this is a great add-on. Honestly, I read the book first, and then I came back and did the workbook when I read the book the second time. And for me, that's been awesome. In fact, right now I'm going through Changes That Heal one more time, and I probably will again many times over, because it's just such powerful, life-changing concepts. And so I hope that you will be enticed to buy your own copy of Changes That Heal, because I can just about promise you that it will help you find more freedom and be called into more of who you were meant to be.